When Violet's family drowns in debt, a wealthy stranger offers salvation, but the price is her hand in marriage. Warren Gill is 63, calculating, and used to getting what he wants. The wedding dress feels like a noose, the contract like chains. But as Violet uncovers the truth behind her gilded cage, she realizes the man who bought her freedom might be the one who needs saving. This is a story about power, control, and the thin line between captivity and choice. Welcome back, beautiful souls. Before we dive into today's story, I just want to say I'm so grateful you're here. If you enjoy these stories, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're watching from. Your support means everything. Now, let's get into it. The dress weighs more than she expected. Violet's fingers catch on the zipper, silk bunching under her nails as she tries to pull it higher. The fabric resists. She tries again, breath shallow, and the metal teeth finally lock into place against her spine. Her mother's voice cuts through the bathroom door. 5 minutes. No answer. Violet presses her palm flat against the sink's edge. The porcelain is cold enough to sting. Did you hear me? Yes. She doesn't look at the mirror. Not yet. Her eyes stay fixed on the drain, a perfect chrome circle that catches the overhead light and throws it back colorless. The dress is cream, not white. Her mother was specific about that. Violet lifts her head. The woman in the mirror looks like someone's daughter, hair pulled back, makeup applied by hands that weren't hers, earrings she didn't choose. The dress fits because it was tailored to fit. Taken in at the waist twice after she lost weight she didn't mean to lose. She looks appropriate. That was the word her mother used. Appropriate for the occasion. Violet reaches for the doorknob and stops. Her hand hovers an inch away. Through the wood, she can hear movement, her mother's footsteps crossing from the hallway to the stairs, then back again. Pacing. She opens the door. Her mother turns immediately, eyes moving from Violet's face to her shoulders to the hemline and back up. The inspection takes 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Good, her mother says. He's downstairs. Violet's stomach drops. Already? His driver brought him 20 minutes ago. Her mother's hand rises, adjusting the collar of her own blouse. A nervous gesture she'd deny if named. Your father is keeping him company. Keeping him company. As if this were a social visit. As if the man downstairs were someone they'd invited for dinner and conversation instead of Violet. Her mother's voice sharpens. We discussed this. They did. 3 weeks ago, sitting in the living room while her father stood by the window and didn't look at either of them. Her mother had done most of the talking. The hospital bills, the second mortgage, the loan her father's business partner had taken out without telling anyone until the bank started sending letters. Violet had listened to all of it. The numbers, the timeline, the options they didn't have. And then her mother had said his name. Warren Gill, 63 years old, widowed, no children. An owner of 4 textile factories and a shipping company her father had once tried to do business with before the negotiations fell apart. He's willing to help, her mother had said, as if help were the right word for what was being arranged. Violet's father had finally turned from the window. He's asked for very little in return. Very little. The words had sat in Violet's throat like stones. Now, standing in the hallway with her mother's eyes on her face, Violet feels the weight of them again. I know, she says. Her mother's expression softens, just barely, just enough to show the fear underneath. It won't be like you think. Violet doesn't ask what she means. She doesn't want to know what version of this her mother has imagined to make it bearable. Okay, Violet says. They go downstairs together. The living room is brighter than Violet remembers. Someone opened the curtains. Afternoon light stretches across the carpet in long, uneven strips, catching dust particles that drift too slowly to be natural. Her father stands near the fireplace. His shoulders are back. His hands are clasped behind him in a posture Violet recognizes from business dinners, the stance he uses when he's trying to project confidence he doesn't feel. And in the chair across from him, Warren Gill doesn't stand when Violet enters. He sits with one leg crossed over the other, ankle resting on his knee. His suit is dark gray. Expensive. The fabric doesn't wrinkle even where it folds at his elbows. His hair is thin, combed back from a face that might have been handsome 30 years ago, before gravity and age pulled everything downward. His eyes are small, pale. They track Violet's movement from the doorway to the center of the room without blinking. "There she is," he says, not a question, not a greeting, a confirmation. Violet's father clears his throat. "Violet, you remember Mr. Gill?" She doesn't. They've never met. But she nods anyway because the script doesn't require accuracy. "Come here," Warren says. It's not loud, not harsh, but Violet's feet move before her brain catches up, carrying her 3 steps closer until she's standing in the space between the coffee table and his chair. Warren uncrosses his legs, leans forward. His gaze moves over her the same way her mother's did. Clinical, assessing, but slower. He takes his time. "Turn around," he says. Violet's pulse spikes. Her eyes dart to her father, but he's looking at the floor now, jaw tight. "Warren," her mother says softly. Not a reprimand, a reminder. Warren's mouth curves, not quite a smile. "I'm entitled to see what I'm paying for." The room goes silent. Violet's hands curl into fists at her sides. The dress suddenly feels too tight across her ribs, the boning digging into her skin with every breath. She doesn't turn around. Warren's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in the air. A tightening, like a rope pulled taut. "We had an agreement," he says. He's still looking at Violet, but the words are aimed past her, at her father. "Of course," her father says quickly. "Violet, please." "It's fine." Violet's voice comes out steadier than she expected. She keeps her eyes on Warren's face as she speaks. "I'd prefer to sit." For 3 seconds, no one moves. Then Warren laughs, a short, dry sound that doesn't reach his eyes. He leans back in his chair, eye waving one hand in a gesture of mock surrender. "Sit, then." Violet takes the chair beside her mother. Her legs feel like water. Warren watches her settle, then reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a folded paper. He sets it on the coffee table between them, smoothing it flat with fingers that are thick and blunt. "The contract," he says. Violet stares at the document. Black text on white paper. Paragraphs of legal language she can't parse from this distance. At the bottom, 2 signature lines. Her father moves closer, standing just behind Warren's chair. Everything we discussed is outlined there. The payment schedule. The terms. "The terms," Warren repeats. He taps the paper with one finger. "Violet becomes my wife. I clear your debts. Simple." Simple. Violet's mother reaches over and places a hand on her knee. The touch is meant to be comforting, but the pressure makes Violet's skin crawl. "You'll have your own room," her mother says quietly. "Warren has agreed to that." Warren makes a noise in the back of his throat, something between amusement and agreement. "For now." The words hang in the air. Violet looks at the contract again. The signature lines blur at the edges. "And if I don't sign?" she asks. Her father's face goes pale. "Violet?" "Then we proceed as planned," Warren says, cutting him off. His voice is calm. Matter of fact. "The bank forecloses on the house next month. Your father's business closes the month after. And your mother, He pauses, tilting his head. Well, I believe there's still the matter of her medical expenses. Violet's mother's hand tightens on her knee. Warren pulls a pen from his pocket and sets it beside the contract. The click of it hitting the table sounds too loud. But you will sign, he says. Won't you? It's not a question. Violet reaches for the pen. Her fingers close around it, smooth metal, cold against her palm. She pulls the contract closer, scanning the first few lines without absorbing any of the words. Her name is already typed at the bottom. Violet Ann Hartley. All she has to do is add her signature. The pen hovers over the line. Behind her, her father exhales, slow and controlled, like he's been holding his breath. Violet signs. The ink bleeds slightly into the paper, turning her name into something permanent. She sets the pen down and slides the contract back across the table. Warren picks it up immediately. He examines her signature. I then adds his own below it, a sprawling, illegible scrawl that takes up twice as much space as hers. Good, he says, folding the paper and tucking it back into his jacket. The ceremony is scheduled for next Saturday, 2:00. I'll send a car for you, Friday evening. Violet's mother stiffens. Friday? She'll stay at my home the night before. Warren says, it's easier. Everything she needs will be provided. That's not... Her mother stops, glancing at Violet's father. Warren stands, buttoning his jacket with practiced efficiency. It's in the contract, he says mildly. Page 2. Third paragraph. No one argues. He crosses to where Violet sits and extends his hand. She stares at it. The thick fingers, the gold ring on his middle finger, the age spots dotting his knuckles. Until Friday, he says. Violet doesn't take his hand. Warren's smile thins. He lets his arm drop, then turns and walks toward the door. Her father follows, murmuring something Violet can't hear. The front door opens. Closes. Silence fills the space Warren left behind. Violet's mother is crying. Quiet, restrained tears that she wipes away quickly with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, she whispers. I'm so sorry. Violet stands. The dress pulls at her waist as she moves, reminding her it's still there. I'm going upstairs, she says. She doesn't wait for a response. The week passes in fragments. Violet goes through the motions, eating when food is placed in front of her, answering when spoken to, packing the suitcase her mother brings to her room on Thursday night. She folds clothes she won't need and leaves behind things she will. No one mentions the contract. On Friday, the car arrives at 6. It's black, sleek, the kind of vehicle that doesn't belong on their street. The driver doesn't get out. He just sits behind the wheel, waiting. Violet's mother walks her to the door. Call me if you need anything. They both know she won't. Violet picks up her suitcase and steps outside. The driver opens the rear door as she approaches. She slides into the back seat and the door closes behind her with a sound like a vault sealing shut. The interior smells like leather and something else. Cologne, maybe, or the residue of expensive cigarettes. Violet sets her suitcase on the floor and stares out the window as the car pulls away from the curb. Her mother is still standing in the doorway. She lifts one hand in a wave that Violet doesn't return. The drive takes 40 minutes. Violet watches the city change through the glass, familiar streets giving way to unfamiliar ones, buildings growing taller and cleaner, sidewalks widening. They pass boutiques and cafes that Violet has never been inside, monuments she's only seen in photographs. The car turns onto a private road. Trees line both sides, their branches forming a canopy that filters the fading sunlight into fractured patterns. The road curves, then straightens, and suddenly the house is in front of them. It's not a house, it's an estate. 3 stories of white stone and arched windows. columns flanking the entrance, manicured gardens stretching out on either side like something from a period film. The car stops at the base of the front steps. The driver gets out and opens Violet's door. She steps onto gravel that crunches under her shoes, ice, and the sound feels too loud in the stillness. The front door opens before she reaches it. A woman stands in the entrance, older, maybe 50, dressed in a plain gray dress with her hair pulled into a tight bun. Her expression is neutral, professional. "Miss Hartley," she says. "I'm Mrs. Calloway. I manage the household." Violet nods. Mrs. Calloway steps aside, gesturing for Violet to enter. "Mr. Gill is in a meeting. He'll join you for dinner at 8. I'll show you to your room." The foyer is marble. The ceiling is 2 stories high. A chandelier hangs in the center, crystals catching the light and scattering it across the walls. Violet follows Mrs. Calloway up a staircase that curves to the left. Their footsteps echo. The hallway on the second floor is long and lined with doors. Mrs. Calloway stops at the 4th one on the right and pushes it open. "This is yours," she says. The room is larger than Violet's bedroom at home. A 4-poster bed dominates the center, dressed in ivory linens. There's a desk by the window, a wardrobe along the far wall, and a door that presumably leads to a bathroom. It's beautiful. It's suffocating. "Your belongings will be brought up shortly," Mrs. Calloway says. "Dinner is served in the dining room. I'll come collect you at 7:45. She leaves before Violet can respond. Violet stands in the center of the room, listening to the silence. It's different from the silence at home. Thicker, heavier, like the air itself has weight. She walks to the window and looks out. The gardens stretch below, perfectly symmetrical. In the distance, so she can see the edge of the property, a stone wall separating Warren's world from everything beyond it. Violet presses her forehead against the glass. The coldness helps. Dinner is worse than she imagined. Mrs. Calloway collects her at 7:45, leading her back downstairs to a dining room that could seat 20. The table is set for 2. Warren is already seated at the head. He doesn't stand when Violet enters. "Sit," he says, gesturing to the chair on his right. Violet sits. A staff member she hasn't met appears with a bottle of wine, pouring a glass for Warren and then pausing at Violet's elbow. "She'll have water," Warren says. The staff member nods and retreats. Warren picks up his wine glass, swirling the liquid before taking a sip. "How do you find the room?" "It's fine," Violet says. "Fine." He sets the glass down. "Hey, you'll get used to it." The first course arrives, some kind of soup in a shallow bowl. Violet picks up her spoon and stares at it. Warren eats without speaking. The only sounds are the clink of silverware and the faint hum of something mechanical in another part of the house. Halfway through the meal, Warren sets down his fork and looks at her. "You're very quiet," he says. Violet doesn't respond. "That will change," Warren continues. "Once we're married, you'll have responsibilities, appearances to maintain." He pauses. "I expect you to fulfill them." Violet's hand tightens around her water glass. "What kind of responsibilities?" Warren smiles. "The kind befitting my wife." He doesn't elaborate. The meal continues. Violet forces herself to eat, though every bite sits like lead in her stomach. When it's finally over, Warren stands. "I have work to attend to. Mrs. Calloway will see you back to your room." He leaves without waiting for acknowledgement. Mrs. Calloway appears in the doorway moments later, as if she'd been waiting just outside. "This way, Miss Hartley." Violet follows her back upstairs. At the door to her room, Mrs. Calloway pauses. "Breakfast is at 7, she says. "Someone will wake you at 6:30. "I can wake myself," Violet says. Mrs. Calloway's expression doesn't change. Someone will wake you at 6:30. She walks away before Violet can argue. Violet enters her room and closes the door. There's no lock. She tries the handle anyway, just to confirm. It turns easily from the inside, but when she examines the mechanism, there's no way to secure it. No bolt, no chain, just a handle that opens to anyone on the other side. Violet sits on the edge of the bed and pulls her knees to her chest. The dress her mother packed for the ceremony is hanging in the wardrobe. Violet can see it through the gap in the door. White lace and silk, more ornate than anything she's ever worn. Tomorrow, she'll put it on. Tomorrow she'll walk down an aisle and stand beside Warren Gill while someone pronounces them husband and wife. Tomorrow this room will stop being a temporary prison and become something permanent. Violet closes her eyes. She doesn't sleep. The knock comes at 6:30, exactly as promised. Violet is already awake. She's been awake for hours, sitting in the chair by the window and watching the sky shift from black to gray to pale morning blue. Miss Hartley. Mrs. Calloway's voice filters through the door. It's time. Violet stands. Her body aches from sitting in the same position too long. She opens the door. Mrs. Calloway is holding a tray with coffee and toast. She sets it on the desk without asking if Violet wants it. The stylist will be here at 9, she says. You'll eat, shower, and be ready when she arrives. Violet nods. Mrs. Calloway leaves. Violet doesn't touch the food. The shower helps. The water is hot enough to turn her skin pink, and for 10 minutes Violet lets herself stand under the spray without thinking. When she gets out, there's a robe hanging on the back of the door that wasn't there before. She puts it on and returns to the bedroom. The stylist arrives at 9 with 2 assistants. They descend on Violet like a coordinated team. One working on her hair, another on her makeup, the third adjusting the dress after Violet steps into it. No one asks her opinion. The dress fits perfectly. The lace sleeves are long and delicate, ending just past her wrists. The neckline is high, modest, the kind of dress a man like Warren would choose for his bride. When they're finished, Violet looks at herself in the full-length mirror they've brought with them. She looks like a stranger. Beautiful, one of the assistants says. Violet doesn't respond. At 1:30, Mrs. Calloway returns. The car is ready. Violet follows her downstairs. The same black car from yesterday is waiting at the front steps. The driver opens the door and Violet slides into the back seat. Mrs. Calloway gets in beside her. They don't speak during the drive. The ceremony is being held at a hotel, one of the old grand ones downtown with marble floors and chandeliers that drip crystal. The driver pulls up to a side entrance, away from the main doors. Mrs. Calloway leads Violet inside and down a hallway to a small room where she's told to wait. 15 minutes, Mrs. Calloway says, and then she's gone. Violet sits in a chair that's too stiff to be comfortable and stares at the wall. There's no music, no chatter, no sounds of guests arriving, because there are no guests. Warren made that clear during dinner last night. Just the officiant and 2 witnesses, staff members from his household whose names Violet doesn't know. At 1:58, the door opens. It's time, Mrs. Calloway says. Violet stands. The ceremony room is small, elegant. Rows of empty chairs face a simple altar where Warren is already waiting. He's wearing a black suit. His hair is combed back. He looks exactly the same as he did in her living room a week ago, composed, certain, untouchable. Violet walks toward him. There's no music, no one to give her away, just the sound of her shoes on the polished floor. She stops at Warren's side. The officiant begins speaking. Words Violet doesn't process, legal phrases and traditional vows that blur together into meaningless noise. Do you, Warren Gill, take this woman? I do. And do you, Violet Hartley? Take this man. Violet's throat is dry. She swallows. I do. The officiant smiles. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Warren turns to her. His hand comes up to cup her jaw, rough skin against her cheek. He kisses her. It's brief, possessive. His lips are dry and he tastes like coffee. When he pulls back, Violet's stomach is churning. Mrs. Gill, Warren says, and his smile is the kind that doesn't ask permission. They return to the estate immediately after. There's no reception, no celebration, just the same car, the same silent drive, the same front steps. Warren disappears into his study as soon as they arrive, leaving Violet standing in the foyer with Mrs. Calloway. Your things have been moved, Mrs. Calloway says. Violet's chest tightens. Moved where? To the master suite, 3rd floor. Of course. Mrs. Calloway leads her upstairs, past the 2nd floor, past the room Violet spent last night in, to a set of double doors at the end of the 3rd floor hallway. She pushes them open. The master suite is enormous. The bed is king-sized, covered in dark blue linens. There's a sitting area with a couch and chairs, a fireplace, arched floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. And in the corner, Violet's suitcase sits beside a wardrobe that's been left open to reveal her clothes hanging among Warren's. Mr. Gill will join you later this evening, Mrs. Calloway says. If you need anything, use the phone on the desk. She leaves. Violet stands in the center of the room, staring at the bed. Later this evening. She knows what that means. Her hands are shaking. She presses them flat against her sides and forces herself to breathe. The bathroom is through a door on the left. Violet locks herself inside. This door has a lock and sits on the edge of the tub. Her wedding dress is still on. The lace scratches at her wrists. She stays there until the light outside the window turns orange, then pink, then purple. When full dark falls, she hears the bedroom door open. Warren's voice carries through the bathroom door. Violet? She doesn't answer. Footsteps cross the room. Stop outside the bathroom. A knock. Come out. Violet stands. Her legs feel weak. She opens the door. Warren is standing there in a different suit, more casual, the jacket discarded. His sleeves are rolled up to his elbows. He looks at her for a long moment, then steps aside. Get changed. We're having dinner. Violet blinks. What? Dinner, Warren repeats. You haven't eaten all day. It's true. She hasn't. I'll meet you downstairs, Warren says, and then he's gone. Violet changes into the first thing she finds, a simple dress her mother packed. She leaves the wedding gown in a heap on the bathroom floor. Downstairs, Warren is waiting in the smaller dining room, the one attached to the kitchen. The table is set for two again, but the atmosphere is different, less formal. Warren gestures to the chair across from him. Sit. Violet sits. The food is simpler too. Roasted chicken, vegetables, bread that's still warm. Warren eats without speaking. Violet picks at her plate. You're afraid, Warren says suddenly. Violet's fork stills. Warren leans back in his chair, studying her. You don't need to be. I'm not afraid, Violet says. Warren's mouth curves. Liar. The word sits between them. I'm not going to touch you, Warren says. Not tonight. Violet's pulse spikes. Then why? Because you're my wife, Warren interrupts. And I take care of what's mine. What's mine? Violet sets down her fork. She can't eat. Warren watches her for another moment, then returns to his meal. Finish your food, then go to bed. And I have work to do. He leaves the table before she does. Violet sits alone in the dining room, staring at her half-empty plate. Eventually, she goes back upstairs. The master suite is empty. Warren's jacket is draped over the back of a chair, but he's not there. Violet changes into the pajamas. Someone, Mrs. Calloway probably, left folded on the bed. She climbs under the covers and turns off the light. She lies awake in the dark, listening for footsteps. They don't come. The days blur into a routine. Warren leaves early in the mornings, gone before Violet wakes. She eats breakfast alone, spends the day wandering the estate's endless rooms or sitting in the gardens while staff members move around her like she's furniture. Dinner is the only time she sees him. They eat together. Warren asks perfunctory questions. How was your day? Or did you sleep well? Have you spoken to your mother? Violet gives perfunctory answers. He doesn't touch her. A week passes, then 2. Violet starts to relax. Just slightly. Just enough to let her guard down when she's alone in the bedroom at night. And then, on the 15th night, Warren doesn't leave after dinner. He follows her upstairs. Violet's heart is racing by the time they reach the bedroom. Warren closes the door behind them and loosens his tie. I've been patient, he says. Violet backs toward the bathroom. You said... I said not the first night. Warren's voice is calm, even. It's been 2 weeks, Violet. She's against the bathroom door now. Her hand fumbles for the handle. Warren crosses the room in 3 strides. He doesn't grab her, doesn't force her. He just stands there, eye close enough that she can smell the wine on his breath. You're my wife, he says quietly. Stop running. Violet's throat closes. Warren reaches past her and pushes the bathroom door open. Get ready for bed. I'll be waiting. He steps back. Violet slips into the bathroom and locks the door. Her hands are shaking so badly she can barely turn on the water. She splashes her face, grips the edge of the sink, tries to think. There's no way out. The bathroom has 1 door. 1 window too small to climb through. She's trapped. Violet changes into her pajamas with mechanical precision, brushes her teeth, stares at her reflection and doesn't recognize the woman staring back. When she can't delay any longer, she opens the door. Warren is sitting on the edge of the bed, still fully dressed. He looks up when she enters. Come here, he says. But Violet's feet move. She stops 3 feet away. Warren pats the space beside him. Closer. Violet sits. Warren's hand comes to rest on her knee, heavy, hot through the thin fabric of her pajamas. You're trembling, he says. Violet doesn't respond. Warren's thumb moves in a slow circle against her leg. There's no need to be dramatic. I'm not a monster. Violet wants to scream. Warren leans closer. His breath is warm against her ear. Lie down. And then, a phone rings. Warren stops. His hand lifts from Violet's knee. The phone on the bedside table is buzzing, the screen lit up with an incoming call. Warren picks it up and frowns. I need to take this. He stands, answering as he walks toward the door. What is it? His voice fades as he steps into the hallway, pulling the door shut behind him. Violet doesn't move. She sits on the edge of the bed, staring at the space where Warren was standing, and waits. 5 minutes pass. 10. Warren doesn't come back. Eventually, Violet climbs under the covers and turns off the light. She doesn't sleep, but she closes her eyes and pretends. When she opens them again, sunlight is streaming through the windows. Warren's side of the bed is untouched. The pattern repeats. Warren tries. Violet finds ways to delay. And something always interrupts. A phone call, a last-minute meeting, exhaustion that sends Warren to the study instead of the bedroom. Violet doesn't know if it's luck or something else. She doesn't question it, but she knows it can't last. 3 weeks into the marriage, Warren's patience runs out. He doesn't announce it, doesn't warn her. He just stops leaving the bedroom at night. Violet is getting ready for bed when she realizes he's not going to his study. He's unbuttoning his shirt, pulling it off. Her pulse spikes. "Warren," she says. He doesn't look at her. "Get in bed, Violet." "I don't." "Now." His voice isn't loud, but the command in it is unmistakable. Violet's hands curl into fists. "What if I say no?" Warren finally looks at her. "Then I make a phone call. Your father's business closes tomorrow. Your mother's medical debt gets sold to collections." He tilts his head. "Do you want to say no?" Violet's knees buckle. She sits on the edge of the bed. Warren finishes undressing and climbs in beside her. His hand finds her waist, pulling her closer. "Good girl," he murmurs. Violet closes her eyes. And then, for the second time in 3 weeks, Warren's phone rings. He swears under his breath and grabs it from the nightstand. "This better be important," he snaps into the receiver. Violet can hear a voice on the other end. Panicked, fast. Warren's expression changes. "When?" More talking. Warren sits up. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ends the call and gets out of bed, already reaching for his clothes. "What happened?" Violet asks. "Fire at one of the factories," Warren says, pulling on his pants. "I need to go." He's dressed and out the door in less than 5 minutes. Violet listens to his footsteps fade down the hallway. The front door slams. She's alone. She exhales slowly and pulls the covers up to her chin. Her hands are still shaking. Warren doesn't come home that night. Or the next. Mrs. Calloway delivers updates at breakfast. "Mr. Gill is managing the situation at the factory. He'll return when it's resolved." Violet nods and pretends to care. The estate feels different without Warren in it. Quieter, emptier. Violet starts exploring. She wanders through rooms she hasn't entered before. Libraries with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, sitting rooms filled with furniture too expensive to touch, a conservatory with plants she doesn't recognize. On the third day, she finds Warren's study. The door is unlocked. Violet pushes it open and steps inside. The room smells like leather and cigars. Warren's desk dominates the center, a massive oak thing covered in papers and files. Behind it, a wall of windows overlooks the gardens. Violet approaches the desk slowly. She shouldn't be here. She knows that. But Warren isn't here either. She sits in his chair and looks at the papers spread across the desk's surface. Most of it is business correspondence, invoices, contracts, shipping manifests. And then she sees it. A folder, half hidden beneath a stack of envelopes. The tab is labeled Hartley. Violet's heart stops. She pulls the folder free and opens it. Inside are copies of every document related to her family's debts, the hospital bills, the mortgage, the business loan, and beneath those, more papers. Records of payments Warren made. Dates and amounts. Violet scans them, her pulse quickening. The first payment is dated 2 months before she signed the contract. The second, 3 weeks before. By the time Warren proposed the marriage, he'd already paid off more than half of her family's debt. Violet's hands start to shake. She keeps reading. There are emails, correspondence between Warren and her father. Her father had reached out first, asking for a business loan. Warren had declined, but then, 2 weeks later, Warren had sent a different proposal. "I've reconsidered. I'm willing to clear your debts entirely, on one condition." The next email contained the terms. "Your daughter." Violet's stomach turns. She flips to the next page and finds a background check. Her background check, photos, academic records, medical history, even a list of places she frequented, coffee shops, the library, the park near her house. Warren had been watching her. For months. Violet drops the folder like it's burned her. She stands, backing away from the desk. Her breath comes too fast. The door opens. Violet spins. Mrs. Calloway is standing in the doorway holding a tray with tea. Her expression is unreadable. "You shouldn't be in here," she says quietly. Violet's voice cracks. "I didn't—" "Mister, Gill will be home this evening," Mrs. Calloway continues as if Violet hasn't spoken. "I suggest you return to your room." It's not a suggestion. Violet leaves the study and goes upstairs. Her mind is racing. Warren didn't just agree to help her family. He orchestrated everything: the debt, the proposal, the contract, all of it. Violet sits on the edge of the bed and tries to process what she's learned. And then she hears it. The sound of the front door opening. Warren's voice, low and commanding, speaking to someone in the foyer. He's back. Violet's pulse spikes. She doesn't move. Footsteps on the stairs, growing closer. The bedroom door opens. Warren steps inside. He looks tired. His shirt is wrinkled, his tie loose, but his eyes are sharp when they land on Violet. "You've been busy," he says. Violet's blood runs cold. "Me what?" Warren closes the door behind him. "Mrs. Calloway told me you were in my study." Violet stands. "Don't lie." Warren crosses the room slowly, each step deliberate. "What did you find?" Violet's throat tightens. "Nothing." Warren stops in front of her. "Violet." She can't hold his gaze. "The folder," she whispers. Warren's jaw tightens. For a moment, he doesn't speak. Then he laughs, a low, humorless sound. "Of course." "You planned this," Violet says. Her voice is shaking. "You made sure my family would need you. I saw an opportunity," Warren interrupts. "Your father was careless. I simply capitalized on it." Violet's hands curl into fists. "You manipulated us." "I helped you," Warren corrects. "Your family would have lost everything without me." "You didn't help," Violet snaps. You bought me." Warren's expression hardens. "Yes, I did." The bluntness of it steals Violet's breath. Warren steps closer. "And you signed the contract knowing exactly what it meant. So don't pretend to be the victim now." "I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice," Warren says coldly. "You made yours." Violet's vision blurs. "I hate you." Warren doesn't flinch. "That's irrelevant." He turns and walks toward the bathroom. "Get some sleep. We'll discuss this in the morning." The door closes behind him. Violet stands alone in the bedroom, trembling with rage and helplessness. She doesn't sleep. Morning comes too soon. Violet is sitting by the window when Warren emerges from the bathroom, freshly showered and dressed. He doesn't acknowledge her. He leaves the room without a word. Violet waits until his footsteps fade. It then goes downstairs. Mrs. Calloway is in the kitchen. She looks up when Violet enters. "Breakfast will be ready in 10 minutes, she says. "I'm not hungry," Violet replies. Mrs. Calloway's expression doesn't change. "Mr. Gill expects you to eat." Violet ignores her and walks out the back door into the gardens. The morning air is cool. The sky is overcast, threatening rain. Violet walks until she reaches the edge of the property, the stone wall that separates Warren's estate from the rest of the world. She presses her palms against the rough surface and closes her eyes. She's trapped here, legally bound to a man who sees her as property. And there's no way out. Footsteps crunch on the gravel behind her. Violet turns. Warren is walking toward her, hands in his pockets. "Running won't help," he says when he's close enough. "I'm not running," Violet says. Warren stops a few feet away. "You're thinking about it." Violet doesn't deny it. Warren studies her for a long moment. "You could leave," he says finally. "Divorce me. Walk away." Violet's heart skips. "What?" "I'd allow it," Warren continues. "On one condition." Of course there's a condition. "What?" Violet asks. Warren's smile is thin. You give up any claim to your family's financial security. The moment you leave, I stop making payments. Your father's business collapses. Your mother's medical debt returns. Violet's stomach drops. So yes, Warren says, you could leave. But you won't. He walks past her, back toward the house. Violet stays at the wall until the first drops of rain begin to fall. The weeks that follow are unbearable. Warren stops pretending to be patient. He doesn't force her, not exactly, but he makes it clear that her cooperation is expected. And Violet complies, because the alternative is worse. She lies beside him at night and lets his hands move over her skin. She doesn't fight, doesn't cry. She just endures. During the day, she avoids him. She spends hours in the gardens, walking the same paths over and over until her feet ache. Mrs. Calloway watches her with something that might be pity, but she doesn't intervene. 2 months into the marriage, Violet stops eating. Not intentionally. She just forgets. Food sits untouched on her plate. Her clothes start to hang loose. Warren notices. You're wasting away, he says one night over dinner. Violet doesn't respond. Warren sets down his fork. If you're trying to make a point, it's not working. I'm not trying to do anything, Violet says quietly. Warren's eyes narrow. Eat. Violet picks up her fork, sets it down. Warren stands, his chair scraping against the floor. This is childish. Then let me go, Violet says. Warren's jaw tightens. No. He leaves the dining room. Violet sits alone at the table until Mrs. Calloway comes to clear the plates. 3 months in, something changes. Warren comes home late one evening and goes directly to his study instead of joining Violet for dinner. She eats alone, then retreats to the bedroom. Hours pass. Violet is half asleep when the bedroom door finally opens. Warren enters quietly. He doesn't turn on the light. Violet keeps her eyes closed, feigning sleep. She hears him move around the room, the rustle of clothing, the sound of him sitting on the edge of the bed. And then, quietly, I know you're awake. Violet doesn't respond. Warren sighs. I spoke with your father today. Violet's eyes open. Warren is sitting with his back to her, shoulders slumped. He asked how you were doing. Warren continues. I told him you were fine. Violet's throat tightens. He seemed relieved, Warren says. There's something in his voice Violet hasn't heard before, something almost like regret. He stands and walks to the window. He doesn't know, does he? What this has been like for you? Violet sits up slowly. Would it matter if he did? Warren doesn't answer. The silence stretches. I'm not a good man, Warren says finally. I know that. Violet's pulse quickens. But I'm not a monster either, Warren continues. He turns to face her. I won't let you go, but I can make this easier. How? Violet asks. Warren crosses back to the bed. He sits on the edge, not touching her. I'll give you space, he says. Time. I won't push. Violet stares at him. Why? Warren's mouth twists. Because you're miserable, and that's not what I wanted. What did you want? Violet asks. Warren looks away. It doesn't matter. He stands and leaves the room. Violet sits in the dark, trying to understand what just happened. True to his word, Warren changes. He stops demanding her presence at night, stops touching her. They eat dinner together, but the meals are quieter, less tense. Warren asks questions, real ones, what she likes to read, what she thinks of the gardens, if there's anything she needs. Violet answers cautiously at first, but slowly, carefully, something shifts. Not trust, not affection, but a fragile truce. One evening, 4 months into the marriage, Warren brings home a book. He sets it on the table between them during dinner. You mentioned you liked poetry, he says. Violet looks at the cover. It's a collection by a poet she'd mentioned once, weeks ago, in passing. You remembered? She says. Warren shrugs. I pay attention. Violet picks up the book. Thank you. It's the first time she's thanked him for anything. Warren's expression softens, just slightly. You're welcome. The moment is fragile, tentative, but it's there. 5 months in, Violet starts to notice things. The way Warren listens when she speaks. The way he started asking her opinion on things. Small things, like what to serve at dinner or whether to replant the roses. The way he looks at her sometimes when he thinks she's not paying attention. It's not love, but it's something. Violet doesn't know what to do with it. One night she finds Warren in his study. The door is open. She knocks anyway. Warren looks up from his desk. Come in. Violet steps inside. I wanted to ask you something. Warren sets down his pen. Go ahead. Why did you really do this? Violet asks. The contract, the marriage, all of it. Warren is quiet for a long moment. I was lonely, he says finally. Violet blinks. What? Warren leans back in his chair. I've spent 30 years building an empire. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but I have no one to share it with. He looks at her. I saw you, and I thought, maybe. Maybe what? Violet asks. Maybe I could have something real, Warren says. Violet's chest tightens. But I went about it the wrong way, Warren continues. I know that now. He stands and crosses to where she's standing. I can't undo what I did, he says, but I can try to make it right. Violet looks up at him. How? Warren reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded paper. He holds it out to her. Violet takes it, unfolds it. It's the contract, the original contract. Warren's signature is still there, but hers has been crossed out. What is this? Violet asks. Your freedom, Warren says quietly. If you want it. Violet's hands start to shake. What about my family? The debt? Already cleared, Warren says. All of it. No strings attached. Violet stares at the paper. I don't understand. I'm letting you go, Warren says. You can leave tonight. I'll have Mrs. Calloway pack your things. You'll never have to see me again. Violet's vision blurs. Or, Warren says carefully, Knock, you can stay. Violet looks up at him. Why would I stay? Warren's expression is unguarded in a way Violet has never seen before. Because I'm asking you to, he says. Not as your husband. Not because of any contract. Just because I want you to. Violet's breath catches. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Warren continues, but I can promise I'll try. Every day. To be better. To be worthy of you. Violet's eyes sting. Take the night, Warren says. Think about it. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. He leaves the study. Violet stands alone, holding the voided contract in her hands. She doesn't sleep. She sits in the bedroom, staring at the contract until the words blur together. By morning, she's made her decision. Warren is in the dining room when she comes downstairs. He looks up when she enters. His expression is guarded. Violet walks to the table and sets the contract down in front of him. I'm staying, she says. Warren's eyes widen. You're on one condition, Violet interrupts. Warren nods slowly. Name it. We start over, Violet says. No more contracts, no more obligations, just us, figuring this out together. Warren stands. He crosses to her and stops just close enough to touch. Deal, he says. Violet exhales, and for the first time in 5 months, she feels like she can breathe. 6 months later, Violet is in the gardens when Warren finds her. She's planting roses, a new variety she'd picked out herself. Warren sits on the bench nearby, watching. You're good at that, he says. Violet smiles. I've had practice. Warren is quiet for a moment. Then, Are you happy? Violet looks up at him. It's a question he's asked before, but this time, there's no expectation behind it, just genuine curiosity. I think I'm getting there, Violet says honestly. Warren nods. Good. He stands and offers her his hand. Violet takes it. Together they walk back to the house. It's not a fairy tale. There's no dramatic transformation, no sudden declaration of love. But there are small moments. Warren learning to ask instead of demand. Violet learning to trust instead of fear. Conversations that go deeper than the weather. Laughter over dinner. Quiet mornings in the garden. Slowly, carefully, they build something new, something real. 1 year into the marriage, Violet wakes up and realizes she doesn't want to leave. Not because she's trapped, but because she's chosen to stay. Warren is still asleep beside her. His face is softer in rest, less guarded. Violet watches him for a moment. Violet then reaches out and brushes a strand of hair from his forehead. Warren stirs, opens his eyes. Morning, he murmurs. Morning, Violet says. Warren's hand finds hers under the covers. He threads their fingers together. I love you, he says quietly. It's the first time he's said it. Violet's chest tightens. She's not ready to say it back. Not yet. But she squeezes his hand. And that's enough. 2 years in, Violet stands in the gardens and looks at the roses she planted. They've bloomed. Warren is beside her, holding a trowel. Where do you want the new ones? He asks. Violet points to a spot near the fountain. There. Warren nods and gets to work. Violet watches him dig, dirt staining his hands. He looks different now. Older, maybe, but lighter, happier. So is she. It's not perfect. They still argue, still misunderstand each other. But they work through it. Together. Violet kneels beside Warren and helps him plant the new roses. Their hands brush in the soil. Warren smiles at her. Violet smiles back. And for the first time since she signed that contract, she feels free. Would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away the moment the choice was yours? Drop your thoughts below, and if this story made you feel something, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you hooked from start to finish.